I'm
All right,
burning.
team. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Raul, did I see you just joined us?
Yeah, I did. I'm having lunch or dinner. I just got home from work.
Okay. All right, that's fine. We can multitask. So thank you all. Happy Monday. Again, everyone taking time out of their very busy schedules. I've looked forward to this particular town hall for a while. Very grateful for Coach Mireille to have said yes. I've had the good fortune of meeting this young lady, this coach, back in August of last year, I believe, in Boulder, Colorado. And yeah, her story, as you will hear on your own, is it's wonderful. It's inspiring. She's paying it forward to the health and wellness community as an endurance coach, as a woman, as a person of color, as an accomplished endurance athlete who recently completed the 2023 Long Beach Marathon,
Awesome.
her 11th marathon and counting. She's run in a couple of marathon majors, which I'll let her share about. And I'm basically going to, turn over the microphone and we'll go through a bit of a presentation led by Coach Murray, and we'll allow some time for some quality Q&A, and probably looking at 45 minutes to an hour of your time. Looks like Rebecca has joined us as well. Hello, Rebecca. All
Hi
right.
there.
And since a lot of us on the call here, the forum, know each other, we want to give Coach Murray, she will know us better over the next hour, but it's just a brief kind of intro. So we can keep it to 30 seconds to 45 seconds and not be 30 minutes into intros, which I've allowed to happen in the past. So I'm putting blame on Coach because I love, I know you all. So we'll just kind of go around the table, so to speak. Let's see here, ladies first, and we'll start with Ingrid.
Hi, I'm Ingrid. I run a lot. I like to box too. I wasn't sure what I'm supposed to talk about, Coach. Sorry, but I'm getting ready to run a New York City Marathon here with a couple other my teammates on this call. And let's see. Right now my big goal is I want to do all the world majors. So New York's gonna be my second. And I'm gonna be doing London later, and I'm really excited. And I'm here today to kind of I can't wait to hear your presentation. So I'm excited to be here. And I met you before, yeah, in Boulder. So when I heard that you were going to be on the call, I thought it'd be great to be on.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ingrid. Let's see here, Rebecca.
Hi, my name is Becky. A lot of people know me as Becky. Coach called me Rebecca. I've like Ingrid will be running New York this weekend, so I'm really excited about that. That'll be my milestone marathon, 50 marathons in 10 years span. So never didn't think I was going to hit that mark, but going after that, just going to be just looking at staying healthy and finding motivation to keep going. And after 50, I'm thinking, should I retire? But probably not. So keep finding that motivation and enthusiasm for running. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Let's see here, Coach Samuel Pappas. I will announce that Samuel, most of you know that is retired military veteran by way of the Air Force. Also retired today from his other job where he was volunteering. Now, Sam, you can give me the correct job, but you maintained retired.
I did restoration work on all the aircraft we have out here.
Yep. So thank you for your service again. And recently, over the last couple of months, a RRC certified running coach, has a couple of clients. And let's see here, most recently participated in the Wicked Triple, a race in Florida where he ran a 10K, finished first place in his age group, ran a 5K, finished first place in his age group, and ran a half marathon, and yes, finished first place in his age group. This is somebody, everybody, who several years ago had two, not one, two hip replacements. Okay. And is as good as they get. And I'm glad you're taking time out of your busy schedule, Samuel, to join us. So what would you like to share
Absolutely.
with Coach that I didn't already share already?
Covered it.
All right. We'll come back to you.
Bionic Man.
Yeah.
All right.
And they're titanium too.
All right. Iraj.
Hi, I'm Iraj. I think everybody except Coach Mireille know me here. And I started running in 2013 with Team in Training. And then in 2018, I joined Coach and Becky in Too Legit family. And I've been really just sticking to improving my time for half marathons. But lately, I thought I'd try a marathon here and there. So I'll be rooting for them in New York next weekend while we're doing our long run for CIM. And we'll see how the training goes in the next 2 weeks and decide whether we're going to take CIM or not.
All right. Thank you very much, Iraj, who also qualified for Boston in February of this year by way of the Mesa Marathon. So congratulations.
Awesome, man.
Yep.
Thank
True
you.
ambassador of the running community. Raul.
Hi everyone, Raul. I just finished having dinner. But yeah, hoping to run CIM in December. So that's kind of what I'm training for currently.
That was quick.
30 seconds or less, right?
Yes. Your first marathon, correct?
Yes, first marathon. Now I'm choking.
It's important to share because those of us that have covered the distance, we all realize the training it takes to get to that point. In some cases, the biggest challenge is just by signing up and saying, yes, I'm going to accept that challenge, and navigating a full-time career professionally and getting in the training that also seems like another full-time job. We're rooting for you. And again, we've walked in your shoes before. So best of luck and thank you for joining. Jaime.
Hey, team. I think I've met pretty much everyone except for Coach here. But yeah, Jaime Lopez. Been running strong for maybe the last 5 to 6 years, 6 years or so. And I met Coach B roughly around 4 years ago at a marathon here in Fresno. And ever since then, just, my running community has just grown and grown and grown, and has really supported me throughout my journey of marathon training, triathlon, and last year completing the Ironman California. So that's me, and yeah, excited for New York.
Another New York bound teammate. Yeah, great story. Love this kid right here. So, and continually paying it forward in his professional career, mentoring youth. Man, what a great group here. So thank you for joining, Jaime. And let's see here. Makara?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh,
Thank you.
good. Okay, sorry. I'm on my phone and it's always weird to be on Zoom on my phone. I just finished coaching. I'm sorry I was late. But I'm a coach based out of the Minneapolis area. And I was excited. I saw this on Instagram and was excited to join.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining. And with no further ado, Coach Mireille, I hand over the reins to you, miss.
Is that everybody? Did we do Scott?
Scott.
He didn't do me. He forgets
Yeah,
about me.
we got to do Scott.
He forgot about me.
Now, I will say that was not intentional, wink, wink.
Yeah, not intentional.
Seconds. 29.
Okay, I'm Scott. I'm Coach B's favorite B to tease. Hi, Rebecca. And Sam is my good buddy, and we have a podcast, and it's awesome. So go check it out on Spotify. And we just love running, and I love this team and people. Thank you.
All right. All right, Scott. Thank you very much. Again, all the way from New Jersey, 3-hour difference time zone. Scott has been a huge contributor to RaceMob as a whole. Heart surgery, and has fallen in love with running and continually pays it forward. Also, like Coach Sam and Coach Iraj, this year recently certified as RRCA coaches. And with that said, Coach Mireille, back.
Okay, thanks everybody for doing your own intros. One thing that sticks out for those that are doing CIM, I say do it, and I've done it twice. So if you have any questions, definitely reach out about that course in the race afterwards. But like Coach B said, my name is Coach Mireille. I'm in Los Angeles, California. So happy to be here and for the opportunity to present to y'all on a topic that's pretty special and pretty important to me. If you saw it on the Instagram slide, I'm going to do a little one-on-one introduction on what autoimmune / chronic conditions are and how as coaches we can kind of guide our athletes that come to us and maybe they have these certain conditions. Maybe you've heard of autoimmune conditions before, maybe you haven't, but if you've heard of it, then you know that they definitely put a twist on endurance training specifically that you might not typically see with an otherwise healthy athlete. So that's why we're here today. I'm going to share my screen if we are all ready. I'll get my things connected. Actually, let me get our slides up and going. Let's see, start from the beginning. Let it load. How's that looking for everybody?
Got it on my end.
Pretty good?
Good.
Looks
Okay.
good.
Awesome. Okay, so once again, thank you and welcome. My name is Coach Mireille, and my presentation today will be on empowering the autoimmune athlete. We're going to talk about coaching strategies for optimal performance and well-being. So, general introduction, the who and the what of what this presentation is geared to. It's for athletes with various autoimmune disorders who want insights on improving their training, as well as coaches who are looking for strategies to help them work with the population. A quick overview of what we'll be going over. Number 1, what are autoimmune disorders? 2, challenges that are faced by autoimmune athletes. 3, how do we manage and guide these athletes to success? We'll go over a few success stories about overcoming challenges within this community. We'll talk about how to build a supportive community. We'll hit our conclusion, and then I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. So the why. Why is this topic particularly important to me? So as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a coach, but I'm also an endurance athlete. And recently this year, I started using the title of a lupus athlete because that is the autoimmune condition that I happen to have. The picture to my left, the one on the left side of the screen, is me in the hospital about 10 years ago this year when I was initially diagnosed with lupus. And the other picture is me at the finish line of this year's San Francisco half marathon. I do want to update this since I just did a marathon post lupus flare, which is another total other thing we'll get into. But I do want to point out that in the first picture, although it shows that, I may be on the way to recovery, that I do finally have a diagnosis, I want to point out that the road to even getting a diagnosis for someone that has an autoimmune condition is tough in and of itself. It's usually takes a long time to diagnose these conditions because it can pop up as so many other things and in different parts of the body, whether that be someone's joints, a specific organ, fevers, temperatures. They can mimic a lot of different things. So although I had to be in the hospital at this point, it actually took me a little over a year to be diagnosed with lupus. And in that year, I had some of the other false diagnoses, such as rheumatoid arthritis. There was a lot of pain involved with this and just the process of navigating the medical system, trying to figure out what was wrong with my body. And realizing that I couldn't be as active as I was before. I wasn't an endurance athlete back then, but I was still, I went to the gym, I was a dancer, played sports, all of those things. So if you do come upon with working with an autoimmune athlete, I would say the one thing that you should know off the bat would be the journey to have that diagnosis has already been, the trauma is already there, the fatigue is already there. So just having compassion for that and seeing if you can find a way to have them discuss their journey so you can find out what their why is when it comes to endurance sports. So let's get into what are autoimmune disorders. It looked like when I asked in the beginning, a few of you were familiar with the term, but we're going to break it down into a few different sections here. First, I want to talk about the immune system. So we know we've all heard of the immune system, and we all have one. Hopefully, it's healthy year round, keeping us safe from germs and fighting colds for us, all of those things. So the role of the immune system is the blood cells in the body's immune system help protect against harmful substances. These substances contain antigens. Our immune system produces antibodies against these antigens that enable it to destroy those harmful substances. So basically, our immune system is our shield, sort of like in the picture here, warning us of infection, keeping us regulated and in homeostasis. So then what are autoimmune disorders? And specifically, what changes from a regular healthy immune system to an autoimmune system? So in people with autoimmune disorders, their immune system does not distinguish between healthy cells or tissues and potentially harmful antigens. So as a result of this, the body sets off a reaction that destroys normal tissue. I really like the graphic that's on this slide because I think it's such a perfect example of, at the top, we have the healthy immune system. First, we start off with our bodies. And as I mentioned, that immune system is sort of our shield. It's our warriors. And it's the system that protects us against the bacteria and the fungi, the viruses, the colds, all that stuff. When we have an autoimmune system or a person with autoimmune disease, we see that the human body goes from the far side into the center. So now, not only do you have your own immune system attacking your otherwise healthy body, but that they leave you defenseless against the outside bacteria, the fungi, the viruses, the colds, and things like that. So it's almost like a double impact on what would otherwise be called, a healthy immune system or a regulated human body. So what can this look like for someone with autoimmune disorders? So as I mentioned above, the road to diagnosis can look like a lot of different things. Back in the day, it was very hard to diagnose an autoimmune condition that wasn't very obvious. Like rheumatoid arthritis tends to pop up in the joints, that's very obvious. But things like MS, lupus, Crohn's disease, much more harder to diagnose, does take extensive testing to get to. So what can it look like? Destruction of body tissue, abnormal growth of an organ, or changes in organ function. Some of the areas that can be affected by autoimmune disorders include the blood vessels, the connective tissues, the endocrine glands, the joints, muscles, red blood cells, and even our skin. This graphic shows the 8 most common autoimmune diseases, but I do want to point out that as of today, I believe there's about 52 to 54 registered autoimmune diseases. So sometimes they are comorbid. So if you have lupus, sometimes you also have like a Raynaud's syndrome. Sometimes these autoimmune diseases can happen as a one-off. So you really just have to deal with that certain conditions, but it's not uncommon for them to branch out and start, looking like other things and kind of multiplying the effect of that one autoimmune disease. So 8 of the most common, they include lupus, which is what I have, rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, MS, multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes, psoriasis, Graves' disease, and Hashimoto's. Now let's get into some challenges that are faced by the athletes that have autoimmune conditions. So first we'll talk about the physical symptoms. What do we experience? We have fatigue, we have joint pain, we have swelling, we have skin problems, we may have abnormal pain or digestive issues, recurring fever, and swollen glands. Now, I know a couple of these can sound like just regular physical symptoms for, someone that works out a lot, and we'll get to that, how to tell the differences in a little bit. But these are some physical symptoms, that I will look for in an athlete that I know has an autoimmune condition. And what I'm specifically looking for is the range of what this is occurring. Is there fatigue at a normal level, what we would consider normal, or are they so fatigued that they have to skip workouts, they need extra rest days? Is their joint pain inhibiting their movement at any point? How long does it take for their swelling to go down? If they have skin problems, what could it be? What could it be originating from? Is it the gear? Is it just the sweat interacting with the skin and the gear? A few sort of physical symptoms that you can start to be aware of and have a dialogue or a conversation with your athletes if you do see these starting to occur, or if they let you know, if you have that sort of communication and relationship with them where they feel open to let you know that, hey, because of X, I'm feeling a little like this, and I just think I need Y. So some mental and emotional symptoms include higher levels of stress, trouble sleeping, brain fog or difficulty concentrating, high levels of anxiety and depression, and internal turmoil from frequent visits to doctors or use of medication. So imagine that you have an autoimmune disorder and it's something that you try every day in your life to sort of control, but in the back of your mind, you know that it's auto, right? It's going to do whatever it's going to do in a sense. And we regulate that with medication and different therapies and things like that. But what I really want to stress here is that even the management of an autoimmune disorder can cause so many mental and emotional symptoms, so it's important to have the athlete sort of find the balance between those doctor visits, between the training, between their goals, between their recovery. Brain fog is a very real thing. Difficulty concentrating, is a very real thing. Trouble sleeping is probably one of the most frequent symptoms that people experience, whether that's due to medication or just, your body's a little bit out of whack, so your systems aren't as regulated as someone with no autoimmune disorders might feel, and they're able to get a restful night's sleep. It can also be the case that while your athlete is getting the recommended number of hours, they may not actually be waking up feeling rested. Into some more challenges that are faced by the athlete. So what does this look like? Important factors to look for in for the previous symptoms we talked about are inflammation that is outside the athlete's normal level, prolonged recovery time, mental anguish over training status, inability to train as prescribed due to psycho-emotional symptoms or increase in physical symptoms, flare-ups or resurgence of more severe or specific autoimmune symptoms. So we have, again, if you could think back to the graphic of what the healthy immune system looks like versus what an autoimmune system looks like, our immune system is that shield, so it keeps us at what would be called a normal level of inflammation because it's doing the work for us. When we put the human body in between our immune system and the outside antigens, where we really want to watch out for, yes, if this athlete is sick, but how sick are they? Is it a cold, or is this a cold, a sign of something else to come? And it's sort of a mind game that a lot of the autoimmune population will play with. And they'll deal with that in different ways. Some people, through having an autoimmune disorder, learn to be even more in tune with their body. So they're able to sort of recognize when things are coming that don't feel quite right. And if that is your athlete, hopefully they're able to communicate that with you so that you can adjust their plans on times. But it can also take a long time, especially when autoimmune, the way it appears, can still shift even after you've had a diagnosis. Just because you've learned that this is how your body reacts to something in an autoimmune body, that doesn't mean it's going to stay the same way over a few years, unfortunately. So it's a constant relearning of what is actually regular and normal for that person. Prolonged recovery time. That can come from the high levels of fatigue, lingering soreness. There are some conditions that really just, will make a cut that a normal person would get heal up in a couple of days might take a week for someone. So if you kind of take that mindset into the recovery process from a long run, or just, you know, the marathon cycle when it's in the really heavy periods, really wanting to make sure that the athlete is getting the recovery that they need so that they can still have the energy to accomplish their goals. Mental anguish over training status. That can look like the athlete being frustrated because they're having inhibitions due to a symptom they're experiencing. And while they know that, you know, if the symptom were a little bit subdued, they could be hitting the times that they want or hitting the markers that they want, they're not able to do so. And of course, that creates a mental challenge, and we can work on a lot of just mental games and mental strength activities to try and help the athlete work through that. But it can be a common occurrence, again, thinking back to the fact that autoimmune disorders are kind of hard to self-regulate, and it takes a lot of work and energy just to get them down to a normal level. So inability to train that's prescribed due to a few of the symptoms that we talked about. Again, really trying to tap into the psychological component of these disorders, the emotional toll it can take from having to live with one. And then the last point is something that I want to touch on a little bit because it's something that recently happened to me. So as I mentioned, one of the pictures I had was from the San Francisco Half Marathon this past year, but I recently completed the Long Beach Marathon. So that was Marathon 11, but it took me a year about between my last marathon, which was Berlin of last year, into here. And that was because I noticed that I wasn't tolerating running as much, and it was getting both physically and mentally harder just to kind of even run around my block. So while I took this as, you know, maybe some post-pandemic things coming to light, what became very obvious later on was the fact that I was actually having a lupus flare-up, and that is why I couldn't run a few steps without, you know, feeling a sort of burning in my legs and instant inflammation in the form of swelling. So this flare kind of took me by surprise because, again, I was diagnosed 10 years ago. I went through treatment. I was considered in remission, and I pretty much had healthy years the past 8 or so without any really major hiccups, minor colds here and there, some infections, what have you. But a flare-up is actually when you see specific symptoms of that autoimmune disorder kind of come to your head, and it's almost like, you know, you're trying to be re-diagnosed again. It's that level of intensity. So if you have an athlete that is experiencing a flare-up, you really want to manage the flare-up first, whether that be through medication or whatever treatments or therapies that they have, and seeing how they can tolerate the training at that time. So there's been points where I've had to take some training down because I was just extra fatigued. I couldn't really get through certain parts of the training. But then there's also times when, as a coach, you need to decide when it's time to give the athlete a little nudge. I know there can be a fear with some coaches that haven't worked with autoimmune athletes before about not wanting them to push too much, not wanting to aggravate their symptoms a little bit more. But that's sort of the nuance that it's going to take in order to work with this population too. So something to keep in mind. So how do we manage? We've talked about symptoms. We've talked about how it can look, what things can look like as far as training an autoimmune athlete, but how do we manage? So I like to say we start with nutrition as a foundation. And for me, that looks like whole plant foods, ensuring adequate vitamin D and omega-3 intake, promoting gut health with high fiber plant foods and probiotics. There are plenty of anti-inflammatory diets out there. You can have your pick. Not really quite a diet person. I say as long as you're eating the rainbow, basically, you're usually in good hands. And of course, limiting excess fats and takeout food and things like that. Not saying you can't indulge, but if you or someone you know or your athlete has an autoimmune condition, there's studies that show that it is helpful. It's helpful to manage these through nutrition, and that's with a balanced and whole food plant diet. Not plant diet, but whole plant foods diet, excuse me. So we have nutrition as a foundation. Number 2 is building a supportive team. So that looks like understanding the roles of the support network and who is responsible. You as a coach are now a part of this athlete support team. You are on board with their doctors, their physical therapists, their therapists, the immunologists, all of that. You know, if you choose to take it to that level and you want to kind of make sure that what you're doing is all right with their doctor, open up those lines of communication, you know, with your athletes. Say, hey, I want to be a part of your team. Is it okay if I'm put in contact with, you know, the people that know you on that level a little bit more, just so that I know what I'm prescribing you is only going to be helpful in the process and not cause you any more pain or discomfort or what have you. Noting the frequency of visits. Again, this requires open communication with you and that athlete. Are they able to tell you what their current treatment looks like? Are they in remission and they're you know, they're good to go? They're seeing their doctor maybe every quarter or so for regular lab tests, or are they at the level where they need to be seen monthly? You know, they're getting blood drawn here and there. All of this kind of comes with, you know, encouraging that open communication and collaboration at the athlete's discretion. And then tailored training. I know we all make our training personalized for our athletes because, you know, they're coming to us from so many different backgrounds and skills and abilities. That doesn't change as much with our autoimmune athletes too. We're still looking at them not through the lens of the disease or the condition. I'd say the condition may help us pick and choose certain things that we want to do, but they're seeing themselves as an athlete still. So it's important that we have that perception too. It's like we're not letting diagnosis limit our thinking and our creativity when it comes to the training. We're letting that diagnosis enhance what we can do to really show the athlete that they are above and beyond a certain condition, that while they may not have control of the condition, they certainly still have control of their goals and where they want to go in their running career. So learning the specifics of the athlete's conditions and trying to adhere to any precautions, adjusting your perceptions when it comes to recognizing what fatigue and overtraining and also what success looks like for athletes. And I put success there because it's not uncommon for the autoimmune athlete to just want to feel good with their training. I know what we tend to hear a lot as coaches is, you know, we have time goals, we want to do this many races, we want a PR, we want that BQ. And that's not to say that the autoimmune athlete won't have the same goals, but I'm saying if you haven't experienced it yet, be open to just checking in with the athlete and say, how did this run make you feel? And let that feeling be the measure of success for the athlete. And of course, we always want to be flexible. How do we manage the mental and emotional well-being? So I can't stress this enough, but communication and communicate the importance of stress management and discuss what techniques have worked with the athletes in the past, especially when we have the athlete that's kind of having the inner turmoil about not being able to reach certain goals as they're trying to embark on an endurance career, but they haven't quite got the balance right between their condition and their goals. And also being able to recognize when you, the coach, might need additional help from someone in the athlete support network and not being afraid to speak out when something feels out of your scope. Again, this is why you want to try and be in contact with their own support team. This is why you want to do research on certain conditions, find some organization that have really good data and facts about the condition and see how you can look at it from a coaching and endurance aspect. And then we have medications and treatments. So depending on the condition, it can be treated or managed through a variety of ways. Some of the more popular ones are anti-inflammatory drugs, corticosteroids, pain-killing medication, immunosuppressant drugs, physical therapy, treatment for the deficiency, a type of surgery, or high-dose immunosuppression. And I want to say if any of these words look unfamiliar to you, I definitely encourage you sort of doing a quick Google search to find out at its core what it is, because these are general categories. And then when you start to look at an actual medication list, it is quite extensive and quite long. But this is kind of the regular gist of what someone with an autoimmune condition could be on. They could be on all of these at the same time. Hopefully not. That is an intense treatment. But depending on, again, how the treatment is being managed, are they in remission? Are they experiencing a flare-up? Do they need to be hospitalized for treatment? All of those factors to consider will kind of guide you as to sort of getting a feel for what they're using to manage day to day, and what they are using when things get really extreme. And then some success stories. Hopefully you can read this font. But last year I had an athlete here in Los Angeles. She also happened to be a friend of mine in the running community, who contacted me because she wanted to run her first marathon. The twist was she also has the diverticulitis, which is another autoimmune condition, specifically of the stomach, I want to say, or the intestines. So things were going really well in training. As I mentioned, she's already a runner here in LA. So I'd seen her at run clubs, doing fun runs and workouts here and there, but she had never really had like a detailed training, especially for her first marathon. So I said, of course, let's work together and get you to that finish line. Things were going relatively well in our training up until I'd say 1 month before that marathon is when she started experiencing flare-up symptoms, and she had to really just shut things down. As I said, of course, she was very disappointed in this. I tried to be as encouraging as possible, but she had a decision to make ultimately, which was, do I still run this marathon or do I postpone it? Like, what is she going to do in this situation? And so when we found out that she was experiencing a flare up and we knew what the diagnosis was, she took a couple of weeks off just to rest. And of course, she had some medications to go through. She had a certain diet she had to adhere to. And I said, let me know how you're feeling in a couple of weeks, and then we'll figure out a plan. A couple of weeks came by. She said she was willing to try and finish the marathon, but she was really concerned about a strategy. And this is where that collaborative and that communication piece kind of comes in with you as a coach and you as and your athlete as the one with the autoimmune condition. So what we did was we got together and we figured out a method, and it turned out that the run walk method was going to be the best approach for her, as opposed to trying to run a certain pace or negative split, a positive split, all of those things. So I gave her 2 different run walk options. We had 2 weeks before the marathon, so just enough time for her to test it out on some runs to see what felt best for her. She picked which one she liked, and that is the method that she used to complete her first marathon. So she had the whole community out there cheering her on. I was watching her through Instagram stories. It was so rewarding to know what was going on behind the scenes and what it took to actually get to race day and have that success story. And then some other success stories. So autoimmune conditions are out in the world. We probably know some celebrities, by face and name, but we don't know their backstory. One such is with Venus Williams, who has Sjögren's condition. It actually caused her to stop playing tennis for a little bit to get diagnosed, find a treatment that worked for her. But as you can see, she's up and training and still competing till this day. So the moral of these endurance stories is that, at the end of the day, these conditions are simply a diagnosis. They don't have to change the trajectory of our lives too much. If we don't let it, we're still able to accomplish our goals and make our own success stories with these conditions, even though it may not feel that way at times. And another example I thought I had a second one. Just kidding. So Venus Williams, also, I love the Williams sisters. So I always want to, anytime I can put them in a presentation, it's always great. So some resources for you to sort of check out and start to read more about autoimmune conditions, or the Global Autoimmune Institute, Autoimmune Association. And of course, you always want to look for resources for specific conditions. They're always a click away. So if that's lupus, since I'm in LA, I look at the Lupus LA Instagram quite a bit. There's also a National Lupus Org as well. That's super helpful. So I think it's good to look at the broader world of autoimmune conditions, and then if the athlete is able to disclose their diagnosis, you can start looking at research and different support groups for that specific condition as well. Let's see. I'm going to try and exit. Nice. Okay, we made good timing. Thank you so much. Yay! I'd love to open up to any questions. Coach B, if you want to guide that, comments.
Very informative. I know I can speak on behalf of everybody. Very, very informative. For those of us that are coaches, that are working with athletes, and those of us that are just active individuals, that as we mature, we ignore our body. the need to listen to our body, not to take certain cues for granted. Maybe sometimes best to err on the side of safety and to get some blood work done or visit your doctor. Sometimes we'll go ahead and write the way we feel off because we're in the midst of training for a half marathon or marathon, and understanding how fatigue or chronic pain, chronic or temporary, where it may be a sign of something different. So thank you very much, Coach Mireille, for sharing your own experience, helping us all be more aware of our own personal health and wellness journey. And with that said, team, let's open it up for questions, please, in relation to your own journey. Many of us have a marathon on the horizon. Good opportunity for some quality Q&A as we have Coach Mireille here and other endurance coaches as well. So let's make the best use of the next 15 plus minutes of our time together. Jaime, thank you very much for your question, sir.
Iraj had his hand up. I saw that. You want to go first, Iraj?
No, go ahead.
I don't really have a question. I do just wanted to share it because I work with youth in the foster and probation systems, and I work with teams, clinicians and therapists and resource parents, so on and so forth. And a lot of it sounds like I would like to get into coaching, as many of you are, and it seems like a lot of it, of like what I do, kind of is what you're talking about. It's like you got to be a part of the team. Everyone has to sort of be on the same page on the athlete's goals as well as their health. So it's very interesting to, I've never thought about individuals that have their own autoimmune issues, and it's just good food for thought for the future as I navigate my career and what I want to do in the future. So thank you for this, because it does open up my eyes to what else I need to kind of learn as perhaps I become a coach, as many of you are.
There is no perhaps. It is in your destiny. Yeah, I think so. We talked about this. We can go back years, right? So you have a lot of support. You've seen other people on this call who've taken that journey, taken that step. It is in you are coaching people already. So
thank you, Coach.
Raj.
Yeah, kind of like Jaime. We do have an athlete in our group who I think has Crohn's disease. So I'm learning, watching his journey and the stuff that he goes through. It's very eye-opening. It actually also helps me every time I come to a little problem compared to his problem. So it's very motivating. What I wanted to ask you was, we had an athlete, a younger, in the 20s, female, and she said she had a thyroid condition, and I might not get it right, but basically said the symptom was her body doesn't recognize when she's tired. So we went around as coaches and did our training plans for her, just with that one kind of fact point in mind, that how do we have her push the training when we don't know when she should stop or when she's had too much. So question one is that an autoimmune condition? And question two is, if it is, how would you go about designing a training plan for somebody that you want to push, but she has that issue?
Yeah, I'd say it is an autoimmune condition for sure, because it looks like her thyroid is overactivating in a sense, which is why she's not able to feel when fatigue is really hitting or too far for her body. I'm forgetting I was going to say adrenal fatigue, but I think that's on the opposite spectrum. But in any ways, that would be considered an autoimmune condition, or at least a chronic condition. She might be managing that with medications. I'm not sure. But when it comes to training plan, I think this is a great area where that periodization comes in, and kind of adhering to that 10% rule. So if you're in agreement, and then you're making that plan, so you have week 1 End of week 1, you do an analysis, get some feedback. How is she feeling? Week 2, you take it up a little, a little bit more, get an analysis. How is she feeling? Week 3, oh, I don't know, something, I feel okay, but I could be better. Then you sort of start to feel like something that happened in week 3 could have set it off, right? And then specific, was it that speed workout? Maybe less reps were needed. Was it the tempo? All that stuff. So it's all kind of like diagnostic up until that point. I think that's the role of you as a coach, and of course, just reading more about the condition too, because thyroid can actually go either way. It can affect someone's fatigue levels. Thyroid can also regulate how people are with food. That's a huge issue with the thyroid as well. So it's like, what is she experiencing specifically outside of the fatigue? Is it showing up in other ways also where she's not feeling that where her own cap is? So some investigation on the athlete side also. I think journaling would be another good technique. Starting from week 1 also, if you guys kind of have like a log that you share together, having her write down what she's feeling and putting it into words. And so trying to really get in her body and translate that into words. And then you guys have that as a cue also.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Raj. Excellent question and great feedback, Coach Mireille. Please, anybody else? Again, as it relates to your journey, maybe somebody somebody who you'll share this link with for some greater sense of awareness. Athletes, coaches, and again, many of you have a marathon on the horizon within days. So just to get some general marathon preparedness, hydration, nutrition, performance mindset, dressing for the elements, working out in a different time zone with the time change that happens on that weekend as well. A good opportunity to gain some valuable insight. Take advantage of it. Kenneth.
You called on me?
Yes, I am.
For what? What marathon are you talking about? No real question. It was so funny today. My friend emailed me, and she has this I forget what it's called, but she has stomach issues, and she was asking me what kind of workouts can I do, because you can only lift 5 pounds right now, and she can't really engage her abs and do like sit-ups and crunches like that, but she wants to do more. Right now she's just working on doing the stair stepper and the treadmill. And I was like, ooh, I don't know. Let me do some research and get back to you. So this actually came at the right question, came at the right time for this lesson here. So I'll do some more research and get back to her. But do you have any recommendations for like cross training workouts that you can do outside of just the stair stepper and treadmill as far as weight training goes?
Do we know what her diagnosis is? She said she can't lift more than 5 pounds.
I know she has some intestinal issues, and I think she had a colostomy bag right now. But so she can't lay down her stomach and do stuff like that. But yeah, I think mainly her arm that she wants to work on right now. I'm thinking, because she said she wants to get like more toning and more strength besides just walking. Yeah.
I think if she's able to disclose a little bit more information, because the key thing that's standing out for me is not being able to do more than 5 pounds. So I'm wondering, is that just like overall weakness that she wants to work on? Is it like a fibromyalgia thing where even just long contact with some objects just don't feel good on somebody? And that's why
I think her doctor has on restrictions right now, pretty much is what I'm thinking it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because the thing that threw me off was where you can't really, like once you start doing weights and stuff, like you automatically going to engage your abs and your core, that's just stabilization. So I'm like, ooh, if you can't really work your ab muscles out too much, I don't know what kind of workout you can actually do besides sitting down, body weight exercises, but yeah.
Yeah. Without knowing too many details, one thing I will say that's sticking out with me that could be happening with her is experiencing a mental barrier. You know, sometimes we think that when we go out to do something and we feel a little bit weak, we start to kind of feel like, oh, I can't do this because of that diagnosis. So I'm always curious if that's kind of what's happening with her is, you know, she has this thing going on, and without, it's almost like self-sabotage, but unknowingly, you know. So I think the mentality is going to be an interesting angle for you to go from. Is like, can you not lift 5 pounds because you don't think you can do the 5 pounds, or is it actually really painful for you, you know? And that's kind of like it can be a fine line, but I think that'd be a good angle to start tapping in from, and just kind of get her to mentally see her accomplishing these things. And that could be through visualization or some goal setting, but I start from there, and I think you can get some leeway.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, Coach. Do you think this would be a good example where they can use running weights, maybe 1 or 2 pound running weights, and walk or run with those? That helps tone up the arms while they're not really doing weight training.
Yeah, adding some resistance. Maybe throwing in some bands exercise too. But yeah, maybe start light, I'd say. I think for her, it might still be about feeling like she can do it, and then giving her room to progress. So if we're going to do like some running weights, you're automatically 1 pound. And then why don't you go and do a lap with these 1 pounds and then see how that feels? Okay, next week we'll try the 2 pounds, but again, going back to that gradual buildup and small incremental, you know, successes and checkpoints.
Excellent. Wonderful. Let's see here. Any other questions, team? Again, New York bound team, first-time marathoners, California International Marathon, Monterey Bay Half Marathon. There is no shortage of activities on the people who are present's calendar. So, because it saves me from the questions later as well. So don't take that the wrong way. But let's just get a different perspective from Coach Mireille, which is fantastic. So
I'll ask a question. So Mirella, I'm actually running New York this Sunday. It's my first New York marathon. And I'm also running CIM 31 days later. So Coach and I have been talking about the tapering versus, sharpening. So, New York Marathon is a long run for CIM.
Okay.
So the goal is CIM was my A race, the one that I think that I can run faster in. New York, I don't want the pressure of a time. I'm not going to have a goal in mind other than as many high fives as I could possibly get and smile at every mile. So miles of smiles. But what do you think about what do I do on November 6th, the day after the marathon? And how do I prepare? What would you do as far as tapering versus sharpening, and maybe get in another I don't need another long run, but maybe I just need to, sharpen some, negative split types of activities or progressive runs.
Yeah. I'd say I'd actually start with the actual New York race and use that as a test. I know you're not going out according to pace, but you can still practice nutrition on that day. So it's like, I would look at New York as seeing what other aspects of training that you can start to hone in on, whether it's your hydration, practicing the same thing you do in CIM, your nutrition, mindset, all of those things. So not the technical part of running, but everything else that supports running. And I'm in a similar situation because I ran Long Beach a couple of weeks ago, and I'm doing Honolulu this December. So I still took a week off after Long Beach, and this past week was my first real training week back. But the only thing I'd say that I did differently was, in the past where I would normally do 1 week off, absolutely no activity, I kind of let my body dictate when I was ready. So I went out walking, I went out hiking, and I was actually running a couple of days sooner. Just run from anticipation, but 2, because I tried running 2 days after, it didn't feel great. So I was like, I'm not ready. I'm going to try it again 2 days later. So you're just kind of dipping your toes in the water. And Again, if this were your last marathon, you could take 1.5 weeks off, but I'd say give it a couple of days, go on a very short run, and let that run sort of dictate what the rest of that down week looks like for you. And definitely with such a short window, it is more about the sharpening than just trying to rebuild back up to hit CIM. So I would go back and look at what worked and what didn't work in New York in that time. You can tailor some workouts based on that too. So it's like New York is very hilly. How did you do on those hills? CIM is secretly hilly. So it gives you a chance to practice that a little bit more in the 3 weeks that you have, or whether that's going out and physically, maybe doing some 1 or 2 more sharpening exercise in that specific skill, or mentally preparing to do a little bit differently in CIM.
I agree. All right. Yeah, we'll see. After I cross the finish line, I think the cards will be shown whether or not I'm ready to train more, or I just want to rest until race day. Yeah, I anticipate I'll be ready to go Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
Excellent question, Scott.
I'm sure you will, Scott.
Sam's going to remind me. He's going to wake up and
I
say,
will.
Did you run today? That's what he asks me every morning. Did you run yet? 5 a.m.
Excellent question, because we can all learn a lot through somebody else's journey, knowing that you have 2 marathons within a month's time frame. Very good insight and advice from Coach Mireille. Excellent question again, Scott. Also, I will sprinkle on a little bit of history. Someone who's coming out of taking some time off, recovering from injury. So looking at that cumulative training load, again, running an iconic marathon in your backyard from New Jersey to New York. But a couple of months ago, when we weren't able to run as much because we were recovering from injury. So being mindful of that and not taking this good flow that you have been in. He's had some excellent long runs in his training, and protecting from plateauing too early, where we still want that A race and Sam to finish strong, potentially a personal best where you established that last year at CIM. And as Coach Murray said, let your body be the judge. Post New York, using New York as an opportunity, as a training long run, fine tuning some subtle elements or some obvious elements like nutrition, that in many cases is an oversight by a lot of athletes that we get wrong. This is an opportunity to really fine tune and dial it in preparation for race day on the 3rd of December 2023. One thing I'd like to bring home before we wrap up, and certainly if there's anybody who has a question, I want to give the opportunity to ask. We probably have time for 1 or 2 at best. It is the 30th of October. Okay. A lot of you have worked your tails off. Your tails off in making the time to get the runs in, recovery in, buying the shoes, all the stuff in between. We don't want to let our guard down in the sense of being too cavalier, in the sense of I'm invincible. I put in the work. People are getting sick. We've talked about illness. The majority of our presentation, our conversation has been around illness. So flu and other is still happening around us. The last we want the week of a race, 2 weeks leading up to a race, is to get sick and taken down for X amount of time, especially with the respiratory element that can be a game changer as it relates to your race day performance or your ability to even race. So I will say that and let you be the best judge on how you manage your time on an airplane, in enclosed settings with other individuals that you may not know. You may not know their circle of path and travel. Just something to be conscious of, because we have all worked very hard to get to this point where we can say with confidence, you know what, I feel pretty good that I can handle the half marathon or the marathon distance. Much tougher to do if we've been off for 2 or 3 weeks recovering from flu or other. So with that said, questions before we wrap up and thank Coach Mireille. Rebecca?
No, I just want to thank you. Thank you for sharing that information. It is a good reminder for me. It's just like listening to the body that and what it's telling you, because there's it goes from green to yellow and all of a sudden it's red, and it does ground you. And so and it's better just to take that listen and take that time off. And it's been a hard lesson for me. I've been running for since 1999, so it's been I still don't learn my lesson, and I still push until I'm grounded. So I, as Coach B was saying, we are heading into New York this weekend, and I am already penciling in future runs. I'm already thinking ahead, but I also have to look at just recovery time. And Scott, you're about running marathon 31 days later. It's possible, right? We can all do it. We can do it if we want to. Then the question comes, should we do it? And that's where I'm at right now. It's like, should I do that? I don't know. I mean, we're contemplating running something in between, soon. And it's a lot of factors to weigh in on. But I'm just at this point, I'm just very grateful that I can, barring that I get sick or something like that, but looking forward to lacing up the shoelaces on Sunday and dealing with the time. I think my issue right now, I'm really nervous about the time change. I don't do well with time change. If it's a 1 hour,
Neither.
2 hour, I don't do well. And this is
I
going to
don't
be
either.
a 3 hour jump, and then we're going to jump back an hour. I'm like, what is that? I don't even understand what that means. So I'm a little worried. So just, eating, I always look at the day before and try to limit what I eat or stop eating at a certain time. So just curious what strategies you use when you approaching a long distance endurance event when it's going to be, you have all these things at play, but nutrition does help, or it could derail you. So just curious.
Yeah, I think the road to kind of dialing in your nutrition is as long as the road to a marathon, and I kind of just make it my goal to learn something new or to do something better with each cycle, knowing that, something I may do it all right and something could still go wrong. But I kind of look back to training for my first marathon and knowing absolutely nothing and going through trials of gels and gear and stuff that were for me, and to now sort of being confident in what I have been testing that cycle and having trust that it's going to work for me on race day. I think for race week specifically, and for New York specifically, if you haven't looked into it, it's just like, we know there's so much time that happens before the actual start line. So that has to be a part of your prep, no matter what. It's like, what are you eating when you first wake up, on the ferry, an hour before, and having those things sort of dialed in too. I think the only thing I stick to on race week is not eating anything new, but still eating as normal as absolutely possible. Getting in the carbs and the proteins, and I'm really not trying to make big shifts. But that pre-race week kind of grocery trip does involve, like, let me get an extra snacks. I don't want to feel, it's like not that I'm afraid, but like, to me, kind of feeling the hunger during race week kind of mentally doesn't do well for me, because it's like, oh, if my body's hungry, then that means I'm not fueled and ready to go. Like, I want to be almost topped off, even days before race day too. And then the night before, it's like trying to squeeze in those extra carbs and getting another sip of something in the morning. So even at times where it feels uncomfortable, I learned to sort of push past that, because I know that once that gun goes off, it's all it's all going out, and now it's just like the gel sometimes and things like that. So not trying anything new, and just kind of making sure I'm pretty much leveled going into the race weekend.
Yeah, I think it's going to be self-control, because it's New York City, and I'm already like, I'm going to hit that hot dog stand. I'm going to get that pizza. I'm going to get that. Of course, none of that I train with that, but I want to hit all the street food. Scott, you're going to tell me where to go.
You have to get bagels at Zabar's.
I need everything. I need to hit up all the local places, but maybe after the race.
Yes,
maybe after.
Excellent. I love this back and forth. I love the dialogue. Very informative and engaging conversation. Scott, you'll be working the expo, right?
I'll be at the expo. Yeah. So I work at a running shoe store called Fleet Feet, and they are the exhibitor management company of the expo. So I'll be at the expo all day Thursday, and in the Fleet Feet booth. And then I'm also going to be at the Fleet Feet Shakeout and after expo party on Friday. So I'll be in the city both Thursday and Friday. Saturday, I am staying home and on my couch and getting ready for Sunday.
Excellent. Two more points before we say to be continued. And I'm never going to say goodbye. We'll continue the conversation in other circles. Let's see here. First, we've seen some clear examples where we cannot take our health for granted or take the ability to run for granted, because you never know somebody else's story. Hopefully, our conversation today has given you a greater appreciation for your own individual journey, realizing that others do not, it's not as easy as waking up, putting on the shoes, getting out the door and, you know, crushing their next run, that sometimes our bodies are speaking to us and sometimes we're listening. In many occasions, we are not. Also, Scott, and using you as an example, with a marathon in New York and a marathon in California, 30 days apart, daunting, but completely within your capability. As we'll use Ingrid and Kenneth as an example, in January of this year, these individuals ran a 5K on Thursday, 10K on Friday, half marathon on Saturday, and a marathon on Sunday within a four-day stretch. Not for everybody. So being mindful of your own individual journeys, being mindful of your path of travels and staying as healthy as possible, while also enjoying the opportunity and the gift of staying active and where you can pay it forward to somebody else. So with that said, thank you very much, Coach Mireille. Thank you all for joining. I'll share this link that we can share with other people in our fitness and wellness circles. I appreciate you all and continued health and happiness. All right.
Thank you, buddies. I love everybody.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Good luck to you guys running this
See
weekend.
y'all in New York.
Good luck.
Yeah.
See you soon, everybody.
All
in
right,
person.
Samuel. Congratulations, Samuel, on your retirement from one career and going full into coaching. The gift that keeps on giving. You'll be filled.
Thank you.
Yep. Be fulfilled in many ways. Oh,
Thank you.
Our CA coaches I see right here.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
All right. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you again.